Good evening. I will now call to order the City County Council meeting for Monday, September the 27th, 2021. And we will begin our meeting with the prayer and pledge of allegiance led by Councilor Ethan Evans.
I would be my privilege and honor to welcome a pastor from Castleton United Methodist Church to lead us in prayer tonight. She pastor from my District 4, 71st and Shadeland. Great to have her here tonight. Thank you, Ms. Sandy Adams.
Let us pray. God of grace and mercy and love and truth, God of justice, we ask that tonight, today, in this place and in this space, that your sovereign will be done. God, that we become people who seek your justice here on earth and your will here on earth. God, I pray blessings over all the representatives here and their families and the things they're going through in their personal lives. And God, I pray for wisdom. I pray for discernment. And God, we thank you that we live in a place and in a country where we can stand up and do this. In your name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilors, please select your green button to indicate your attendance. All right, there are 23 councilors present. Councilors Bain and Carlino have asked to be excused this evening. We have no guests this evening who are already not part of our agenda, so the next item on our agenda is official communications. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, you are hereby notified that regular meetings of the City, County Council, and Police, Fire, and Solid Waste Collection Special Service District Councils will be held in the City County Building in the Council Chambers on Monday, September 27, 2021 at 7 o'clock p.m. The purposes for such meetings being to conduct any and all business that may properly come before the regular meetings of the councils. Sincerely, Bob Osley, President, City County Council. Ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to the laws of the state of Indiana, I cause to be published in the Court and Commercial Record and in the Indianapolis Star on Friday, September 17th, a copy of a notice of public hearing on proposal number 315, 2021, said hearing to be held on Monday, September 27th, 2021 at 7 o'clock p.m. in the Public Assembly Room of the City County Building. Respectfully, Sarita Hughes, Clerk of the City County Council. Ladies and gentlemen, I have approved with my signature and delivered this day to the Clerk of the City County Council, Sarita Hughes, the following ordinances. Fiscal Ordinance Numbers 18 through 21, General Ordinance Numbers 33 through 40, Special Ordinance Numbers 8 through 11, General Resolution Numbers 10 through 13. Joseph H. Hogsett, Mayor. Mr. President, this concludes the official communications.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on our agenda is adoption of the agenda. Do I have consent? The next item on our agenda is approval of journals for September 13th, 2021. Do I have consent? We'll now proceed to presentation of petitions, memorials, special resolutions, and council resolutions. And this first item on our agenda is proposal number 247, referred to Community Affairs Committee. Chairwoman Jackson.
Give me one moment, Mr. President. I wasn't ready. Give me 1 second, Mr. President. The Community Affairs Committee was called to order on September 23rd, 2021 at 5:30. The meeting was adjourned at 5:41, and attending members was myself, Chair, Councilor Adamson, Councilor Booth, Councilor Michael Dilk, Councilor Ethan Evans, Councilor Michael Paul Hart, Councilor Kristen Jones. Absent was Councilor Josh Baines and Councilor Keith Graves. And what we appointed, proposals 247, appointing Julie Baines to the Indianapolis Food Commission with a DUBAS recommendation 7-0, as well as proposal 248, 2021, appointing Sharona Moore to the Indianapolis Community Food Commission Advisory Commission with a DUPAS recommendation with a vote to 7-0. Also, proposal number 263, 2021, appointing Laura Dodds to the Indianapolis Community Food Access Advisory Commission with a DUPAS recommendation of 7-3. The Community Affairs Committee was consent and moved forward with the agenda. And, Mr. President, I so move.
All right. It's been probably moved and seconded, but however, we will take these one at a time. So proposal number 247, the motion has been properly moved and seconded. Other comments from councilors on proposal 247? All right, seeing none, let's proceed to the board for our vote. Proposal number 247, please. Madam Clerk. Motion carries 23-0. Madam Chair, would you mind making a motion on proposal number 248? Second. All right, motion has been properly moved and seconded. Other comments from councilors? All right, seeing none, let's proceed to the board for our vote. Motion carries 23-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 263. Chairwoman Jackson. Motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councillors? All right, seeing none, let's proceed to the board for our vote. Motion carries 23-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 299, referred to Municipal Corporations Committee. Chairman Gray.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. We met on Thursday, September 23rd, 2021, for proposal number 299, which reappoints Richard Wilson, Jr. to the Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation Board of Directors. Mr. Wilson stated and thanked the committee for the opportunity to serve on the Indianapolis Public Transportation Board. He stated that he had learned a lot and that it has been a marvelous experience. He said that he would love to be able to take the bus downtown, and he stated that this is a great board and he enjoys the service and he enjoyed working on the board and he has a real passion for it. Councilor Brown moves, second by Councilor Mascari, to send proposal 299 to the full council with a due pass recommendation. I move that we support this vote to the full council with a due pass recommendation.
Motion's been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councillors? All right, seeing none, let's proceed to the board for our vote. Motion carries 23-0. The next item on our agenda is introduction of proposals. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposal numbers 316 and 317 refer to the Municipal Corporations Committee and were introduced by Councilors Gray, Carlino, Evans, Barth, Potts, Graves, Adamson, and Brown. Proposal number 316 approves the issuance of A, Indianapolis-Marion County Public Library General Obligation Bonds, Fort Benjamin Harris Branch Facility Improvement Project, and an original aggregate principal amount not to exceed $13,666,000 for the purpose of financing all or any portion of the Fort Benjamin Harrison Branch Facility Improvement Project, and B, Indianapolis-Marion County Public Library General Obligation Bonds, Glendale Branch Facility Improvement Project, and an original aggregate principal amount not to exceed $14,850,000 for the purpose of financing all or any portion of the Glendale Branch Facility Improvement Project. Proposal number 317 approves the appropriation of $14,300,000 for the Fort Benjamin Harrison Branch Facility Improvement Project and $15,500,000 for the Glendale Branch Facility Improvement Project. The appropriations are for bond proceeds and related investment earnings of A, Indianapolis-Marion County Public Library General Obligation Bonds, Fort Benjamin Harrison Branch Facility Improvement Project, in an original aggregate principal amount not to exceed $13,660,000 for the purpose of financing all or any portion of the Fort Benjamin Harris Branch Facility Improvement Project, and B, Indianapolis-Marion County Public Library General Obligation Bonds, Glendale Branch Facility Improvement Project, and an original aggregate principal amount not to exceed $14,850,000 for the purpose of financing all or any portion of the Glendale Branch Facility Improvement Project. Proposal number 318, introduced by Councilors Oliver and Hart, referred to the Parks and Recreation Committee, establishes interest in purchasing real estate at 7240 Dewey Avenue for purposes of the Department of Parks and Recreation. Proposal number 319, introduced by Councilors Potts and Barth, referred to the Administration and Finance Committee, establishes interest in purchasing real estate at 6379 North College Avenue by the Indianapolis Fire Department for the purpose of establishing a new Station 32. Mr. President, this concludes the introductions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on our agenda is special orders priority business. Proposal numbers 321 through 329, 2021 are all rezonings that were certified to the Council for approval by the Metropolitan Development Commission. If no one wishes to call any of these proposals down for a public hearing, they will pass into law. Is there anyone with an interest in calling down any of the proposals 321 through 329? All right, seeing no one. Proposal numbers 321 through 329 will now pass into law. The next item on our agenda is special orders public hearing. So it's a committee of the whole, and so we will have public testimony. Before we open the floor to public comments, our general counsel would like to read some ground rules. Ms. Kim.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we move to the public comment portion of the debate for these proposals, we would like to remind council members and the public of a few ground rules. So everyone can have a fair chance to speak and be heard, it is important that we each observe the following rules. First, each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes. Second, any public comments must reasonably relate to the agenda item under consideration. Third, speakers who stray from the item under consideration or become unduly repetitious may be asked to move on to their next point or conclude their comments. Finally, attendees who cause disruptions that prevent the council from proceeding through tonight's agenda in a reasonably efficient manner will be removed. Please remember that some types of threatening speech or incitement to violence are not protected by the First Amendment at all. We will deal with those situations if they come up, but we don't think they will. And now, Mr. President, if a council member asks for consent to adopt these rules, we can proceed to public comments.
Councilors, do I have consent to adopt these rules? Consent. All right, very good, thank you. This evening was advertised for public hearing on our proposed budgets for 2022 for the full city and county enterprise, as well as for each of our municipal corporations. We will first take public testimony on proposal numbers 264 through 267, which include the proposed budgets for all city departments and county agencies within local government, along with their tax levies and rates for special service districts for the year 2022. Please keep in mind that you will be limited to 2 minutes with your comments, so that everyone who wishes to speak has the opportunity to do so. Please keep your comments germane to the city and county budgets only at this time, and we will take public comment on each of the municipal corporation budgets separately. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to proposal numbers 264 through 267? Proposal 264 approves a tax levy and rate for the Police Service Special Service District for 2022. Proposal number 265 approves the tax levy and rate for the Fire Special Service District for 2022. Proposal 266 approves the tax levy and rate for the Solid Waste Collection Special Service District for 2022. And proposal number 267 adopts the annual budget for the City of Indianapolis and Marion County for 2022. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? All right, seeing no one, then we will move on to proposal number 300, which adopts the operating and maintenance budgets and tax levies of the Indianapolis Airport Authority and establishes appropriations for said municipal corporation for 2022. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to offer public comment regarding the budget for the Indianapolis Airport Authority? All right, seeing no one, then we will go on to proposal number 301, 2021, which adopts the operating and maintenance budgets and tax levies of the Capital Improvement Board of Managers and establishes appropriations for said municipal corporation for 2022. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to offer public comment regarding the budget for the Capital Improvement Board? All right, seeing no one, then we will move on to proposal number 302, 2021, which adopts the operating and maintenance budgets and tax levies of the Health and Hospital Corporation and establishes appropriations for said municipal corporation for 2022. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to offer public comment regarding the budget for the Health and Hospital Corporation? Very good, thank you. Proposal number 303, 2021, adopts the operating and maintenance budgets and tax levies of the Indianapolis-Marion County Public Library and establishes appropriations for said municipal corporation for 2022. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to offer public comment regarding the budget for the public library? All right, seeing no one. Proposal number 304, 2021, adopts the operating and maintenance budgets and tax levies of the Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation, otherwise known as Indigo, and establishes the appropriations for said municipal corporation for 2022. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to offer public comment regarding the budget for Indigo? All right, seeing no one then, the next item on our agenda is proposal number 292, referred to Municipal Corporations Committee. Chairman Gray.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We met on September the 23rd, and on the agenda was proposal number 292. 292 approves the issuance of the Indianapolis-Marion County Public Library General Obligation Bonds in the series of 2021C in the principal amount not to exceed $5,575,000 for the purpose of financing all of any portions of the 2021-2022 Energy Conservation District-wide long-term capital maintenance and equipment projects to improve patrons' experience and provide better access to DuPass. This proposal passed out of the committee 5-0. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Motion's been properly moved and seconded. Other comments from councilors? Seeing none, is there anyone in the public who wants to comment on proposal number 292? All right, seeing no one, let us proceed to the board for a vote. Motion carries 23-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 293, referred to Municipal Corporations Committee. Chairman Gray.
Yes, Mr. President. Proposal 292, 293, 94, and 95, they are all kind of related to one another. Proposal number 293 approves of the bond proceeds and investment earnings of the Indianapolis-Marion County Library General Obligation Bond in a principal amount not to exceed $5,575,000 for the purpose of financing all or any portion of the 2021-2022 Energy Conservation and District-wide long-term maintenance and equipment project to improve patrons' experience and provide better access to information. This also passed out of committee 5-0, Mr. President, and I so move.
The motion's been properly moved and seconded. Other comments from councilors? Seeing none. Seeing none, is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment on proposal number 293? Right, seeing no one, let us proceed to the board for our vote. Motion carries 23-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 294, referred to Municipal Corporations Committee. Chairman Gray.
Thank you. Proposal 294 approves the issuance of Indianapolis-Marion County Public Library General Obligation Bond Series 2022 in a principal amount not to exceed $5,575,000 for the purpose of financing all of any portion of the 2022-2023 energy conservation and district-wide long-term capital maintenance and equipment projects to improve patron experience and provide better access to the information. This also passed out of committee 5-0, and I so move.
Motion's been properly moved and seconded. Comments from councilors? Councilor Ethan Evans.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just had a question regarding the timing on the bond. So for 2022, 2023, for these specific bonds, is that meaning that it'll go into effect at the end of next year, approving it now, and it'll go all the way through the end of 2023, or will there be, will these other ones that were approved just before then, will that carry through to the end of 2022?
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Is there anyone here from the Office of Finance who can answer Councilor Ethan Evans' question?
Good evening. I'm EJ Young. I'm the CFO at the Indianapolis Public Library. The bonds, the 2022-2023 bonds will be sold in 2022 and 2023. So we'll receive the bond proceeds then. And the repayment period is for approximately 2 years.
Does that answer? Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. DK. Any additional questions or comments from councilors? All right, seeing none, is there anyone in the public who wants to comment on proposal number 294? All right, seeing none, let's proceed to the board for a vote. Motion carries 23-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 295, referred to Municipal Corporations Committee. Chairman Gray.
Yes, proposal number 295 is approves the appropriation proceeds and investment earnings of the Indianapolis Marion County Public Library General Obligation Bond Series 2022. The principal amount not to exceed $5,575,000 for the purpose of financing all of any portion of the 2022-2023 energy conservation and district-wide long-term capital improvement and equipment project to improve patrons' experience and provide a better access to information. This proposal also passed out of committee 5-0, and I so move, Mr. President.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Other comments from councilors? Seeing none, is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment on proposal number 295? All right, seeing no one, let us proceed to the board for a vote. Motion carries 23-0. General Counsel has informed me that no agreement was reached during the preliminary hearing for proposal number 315-2021, rezoning case 2021 CZN 817, and therefore a public hearing is required on the proposal this evening. Section 151-79 of the code clearly outlines the process for public hearings for rezoning cases certified by the Metropolitan Development Commission. All councilors should have received a copy of those guidelines as well as an outline of the schedule last Friday via email, and we will adhere closely to those guidelines and time limits. These guidelines allow for a 2-minute opening statement by Councilor Adamson, who called down the rezoning, and each side, the petitioners first and the remonstrators second, are then allowed 20 minutes total to present their case. They may use all their time at once or reserve part of their time for rebuttal. Any member of the public who is not affiliated with either the petitioner or remonstrator will be allowed 2 minutes each for comment. The remaining time left for rebuttal by each party will then be granted. Following those rebuttals, each counselor is allowed the floor only once for not more than 2 minutes for questions or comments. If a question requires an answer by either the petitioner or remonstrator, the president will call on them to respond, but their answer must also be included in the counselor's 2 minutes. The counselor calling down the rezoning, in this case Counselor Adamson, will then be allowed 5 minutes for closing comments, which will be immediately followed by a vote on the proposal with no further debate. It requires 15 votes to overturn the zoning decision by the Metropolitan Development Commission. Failing 15 votes to overturn the MDC's decision, the proposal shall stand denied pursuant to IC 36-7-4-608C3. Councilor Adamson, in whose district the rezoning is located, called the matter out for a hearing at our September 13th meeting. As pursuant to our rules, I will call on Councilor Adamson for an opening statement. Councilor Adamson.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening, fellow councilors. From time to time, this body is asked by one of us to consider a call down of a rezoning proposal from the MDC. Tonight, as councilor for District 17, I have elected to call down proposal number 315 for a rezoning ordinance for Center Township located at 2216 and 2228 North College Avenue. We will hear from both petitioners and remonstrators this evening, as there has been a great deal of dialogue and compromise between all parties to get us to where we are today. However, as we will also hear, some residents continue to oppose this development. I want to say at the outset that I appreciate their concerns and how steadfast they have been throughout this process in making sure their voices are heard. Specifically, I believe the petitioners and the MDC have heard them along the way, and I know that I have. I've also heard the voices of supporters in my district, and I've heard specifically from the petitioners about the potential this development has to address community needs and meet expectations and goals laid out by the council in terms of our providing more safe, affordable housing options to our constituents. I hope this evening is that we hear, my hope for this evening is that we hear from all stakeholders in this project, from remonstrating District 17 residents, from the petitioners, from the city and MDC staff, and from one another. I hope this dialogue makes clear to all of you what is clear to me, that this rezone petition is a good faith attempt by the developer to meet the needs of our community for safe, affordable housing, and to hear legitimate concerns about the development's impact on the neighborhood. Therefore, Mr. President, for the reasons I have already stated, I move that the council overturn the Metropolitan Development Commission's decision regarding proposal number 315, 2021, rezoning case 2021 CZN 817, thereby approving the petition, and I so move.
Thank you, Councilor Adamson. I'll now call on the petitioner to state their case. Please keep in mind that you have 20 minutes total for your presentation, regardless of how many speakers participate. You may choose not to use the full 20 minutes or to save a portion of it for rebuttal. Our clerk will keep track of the time, and a buzzer will sound when your time is up. If you do not use a portion of your time, our clerk will record the amount you have remaining for a rebuttal. You may begin, sir.
Good evening, Council, and thank you for your time. My name is Eric Armstrong, and I'm one of the principals of Circle City Property Management and Development. We're a City of Indianapolis certified MBE company that has developed affordable and market rate housing in Midtown and the near north side of Indianapolis over the past couple years. In this short time, we recognized a tremendous need for quality, affordable housing in these neighborhoods, which led us to partner with INHP, with whom we share an aligned vision to provide diverse housing options for our city's diverse population. To that end, we agreed with INHP that their site targeted for transit-oriented affordable housing at 22nd and College was a perfect location for our Citizens Park development. These high-quality, transit-oriented workforce apartments are earmarked for working Hoosiers earning no more than 60% of the average median income, or approximately $34,000 for a household of one and $40,000 for a household of two. Citizens Park will provide the residents and their family a home with direct access to schools and colleges, parks, bike trails, churches, and retail along our expanding transit line. We began work on the necessary zoning for this proposal in February of this year, reaching out to the Fall Creek Place HOA and city planning staff about the design. We solicited feedback, made modifications, refining commitments, and site plans, striving for the best overall design. Even following initial zoning and variance approval recommendation from the hearing examiner, we were encouraged to continue working with the neighborhood on our design, and we did. At their request, we provided a design change that included access to the site from College Avenue instead of from the West Alley. This yielded even greater support, including that of the Fall Creek Place HOA Board, Councilors Adamson and Osley, and additional churches and business in the neighborhood. However, in pursuit of compromise, there was confusion at the MDC appeal hearing on how the requested design changes impacted parking versus the design that had recently been recommended for approval. The design, in fact, netted an additional 2 parking spaces. Despite this collaborative effort, ultimately some people still feel that 38 units are too many for this location, or becomes apartments or not traditional single-family homes that somehow makes them inadequate housing. We disagree wholeheartedly and feel this short-sighted line of thinking is out of touch with a growing city like Indianapolis. As in many large cities, apartments provide convenience and amenity, proximity, and community for individuals and small families. Residents can simultaneously save money and remain close to their workplaces, often eliminating the need for a vehicle while they plan their next steps. And in the case of Citizens Park, take advantage of professional and financial literacy resources like those offered by INHP and Dress for Success. This path could ultimately lead to purchasing one of the affordable single-family homes we're currently building for INHP. Others may choose to utilize a Renew Indy product with a construction loan from Community First Bank of Indiana, another partner of ours. However, we feel the reality is if we fail to provide opportunities to build dense, quality, affordable housing like Citizens Park, we'll lose a critical first step in the path to financial independence. Thank you all for your time and consideration.
President Osley, Vice President Adamson, David Kingan. I'm an urban planner here in the city, and I'm here before you today to give you a few facts about the project that Mr. Armstrong just mentioned. This site is presently zoned half DA for multifamily, and the balance of it is zoned C3, neighborhood commercial. So what we have proposed is to rezone this property to the MU2 district, which allows for mixed-use development, which will be primarily multifamily housing, but will allow a small amount of square footage for neighborhood commercial uses. So again, this site, being in the 2200 block of North College, for those of you that are familiar with it, presently has 2 vacant commercial buildings, 2 apartment buildings, and 1 warehouse. So this multifamily or mixed-use project, we feel, is appropriate on the vacant tract of ground that is on the west side of the 2200 block of North College. As Mr. Armstrong mentioned, we have offered and have incorporated 18 commitments that give protection to the immediate neighbors about this development if it takes place. We further have identified 14 uses for the commercial space, and only those 14 uses can occupy the commercial space, and that list was derived by working with the neighborhood. Again, as Mr. Armstrong indicated, there's a great deal of support from the Fall Creek Place Homeowners Association, area residents, and area businesses that you will hear from this evening. So again, we feel that this rezoning is appropriate, supported by your planning staff, and that it is the excellent use for the parcel that is in the west side of the 2200 block of North College. Thank you.
Good evening, councilors. Mike Halstead with Halstead Architects, offices at 1139 Shelby Street in historic Fountain Square. I want to start out by just going over a few of the design changes that have occurred over the last 6 months on this project. We started with an apartment complex that had 68 units, was 4 stories tall, and we had access to the parking garage from the west alley. The first floor commercial space was oriented to the south, so facing 22nd Street. And if you're familiar with that area, there is an abandoned convenience store slash gas station there. Based on neighborhood comments back from staff and from the Fall Creek Place HOA, we revised the design, reduced it to 58 apartments, and this time we brought the parking garage access from College Avenue, and the first floor commercial space was oriented along the east part of the site facing College Avenue with a comfortable landscaping setback and outdoor seating area for the retail commercial space, which we hope to be restaurant or coffee shop. At that point, following further discussions with staff and the HOA, we revised the design and reduced the number of apartments to 38 units, 3 stories. We also set the building back from the alley so that that's how we came up with the current U-shaped configuration, so that the only thing right on the alley is the 1-story part of the parking structure. As Eric mentioned, at the MDC hearing, we also agreed then finally to allow the garage access only from College Avenue back to College Avenue, and it would only allow exiting to the south from the parking garage so that we would not have issues with traffic as much as possible. A few of the unique design features for this project that are atypical for affordable housing, those include the enclosed parking garage at grade. That is rare for affordable housing. We also have a second floor patio and deck that's about 10,000 square feet. And as I mentioned before, we provided the seating and landscaping along College Avenue with a deeper setback to attract the right retail and commercial spaces. Our next steps, we're happy to continue working with staff and the HOA and the neighborhood to continue tweaking the design features and come up with the appropriate facades. Thank you.
My name is Chris Core. I'm a resident of Fall Creek Place. I'm a member of the HOA board and the current land use chair, a position I've held for the last 9 years. I can say easily this is the most contentious case we've ever had in our neighborhood. There's no such thing as consensus on this case. I would like to present the letter that we have prepared in support of this project. I'll preface that by saying that we originally were opposed on the basis of the garage access being from the alley, which we felt would have a negative impact upon neighbors. Upon the access being changed, we revisited our opinion. So, to whom it may concern, the Fall Creek Place Homeowners Association Board of Directors voted 4-0 at their August 8th, 2021 meeting to support the proposed mixed-use development at 2216 North College Avenue. This support is contingent upon vehicular access to the first floor parking garage being relocated from the alley to the college frontage of the site as depicted on the site plan. For safety, this access should restrict vehicles to right-in, right-out turns to the southbound lane of College. An updated set of commitments between adjacent homeowners, representatives of the HOA Board of Directors, and the developer agreed to on August 8, 2021. Fall Creek Place wholeheartedly supports affordable housing given the history of mixed-use income redevelopment in our neighborhood, and we look forward to this project being an asset to the College Avenue corridor. The HOA Board of Directors hereby submits this letter of support for this petition. And I would just mention that the history of our neighborhood is that in the initial phases of our neighborhood, more than 50% of all houses had to be sold to income-qualified people. And today, that really is not the case in our neighborhood, and so we sorely need affordable housing. Thank you.
John Thompson. I own Thompson Distribution and First Electric Supply, directly across the street from Citizens Park. And I bought a company there 20 years ago, Mutual Pipe and Supply. And when I purchased that company, that neighborhood was majority low income. It's changed quite a bit. Many have benefited throughout the city from the improvements. I think the low income residents that live there for the longest period of time have not benefited. Many of them have been forced out of the neighborhood because there is not affordable housing. And I would certainly like to see affordable housing return. There's been a lot of debate between neighbors about the project. I think those debates have been positive to date. There's been some nice improvements. The design is very nice design, and it's consistent with design that's going in 2100 block on the east side of the street. So we'll see some further improvements in the neighborhood. And I would also say it'd be great to see lower income neighbors become a part of that neighborhood again and enjoy the benefits of it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, councilors. My name is Anthony McDaniel, Associate Pastor of Grace Apostolic Church, which is on the southwest corner of 22nd and College. We've been a staple in that community for 58 years. We moved into that assembly when I was 1 month and 6 days old. So it has a special spot in my heart. I'm still a member there. And we grew up in that neighborhood. My parents raised 9 of my siblings right there on the corner of 22nd and Park. We've lived there for 50 years until the transitioning of my dad. So that community has a real special value for us, to us, and we are here just to say that we are in support of low-income housing because we believe in inclusiveness for the entire community, and we would love to see that project take off and be a benefit not just to our community, but to those that are desiring to move into that particular community. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Jan Mensch. I'm a homeowner in Fall Creek Place, and I live there with my wife and 3 kids. The proposal to build dozens of much-needed affordable housing units in Fall Creek Place resonated with me for several reasons. First, I am myself a beneficiary of affordable housing. My mother immigrated from Poland in the 80s and raised me and my sister largely by herself. She worked as a grocery clerk and then as a driver for most of my childhood. Money was tight, but we were fortunate to grow up in a town with great public schools and families who helped raise me and my sister. But housing in my hometown had become increasingly expensive, and we could no longer afford the rent. My mother was suddenly faced with the prospect of uprooting the family and moving to a community with struggling schools and increasing crime. We were on the verge of leaving for a very different future when a friend told her about an affordable housing program in town. She applied and was fortunate to get a spot. My mother continued to struggle financially, but because we had stable housing, my sister and I were able to go to excellent schools and benefit from a network of friends and families who helped us get jobs and helped us apply to college and dream big. I've since gone on to law school and lived in different cities, eventually choosing to settle down in Indianapolis to raise a family. I wanted to tell you this story because I believe I owe much of my success in life to the affordable housing development and the fact that it was intentionally placed in a great community where I could not otherwise afford to live. The College Avenue development could benefit Indy residents in a similar way. I also believe that this particular development is appropriate for our neighborhood. At previous hearings, I've heard the structure referred to as a prison because of its density. They have also argued that residents' building will not be able to be integrated into the neighborhood, and that simply isn't true. Fall Creek Place and the near north side is home to a variety of housing types, including large apartment buildings. It's a neighborhood that draws you out of the home. It's a neighborhood with where you'll frequently see people pushing strollers, congregating in parks, schools, restaurants, and cafes in the neighborhood, many of which are located within a few blocks of the proposed development. We ride our bikes to work and take public transportation, and when we meet in the community, no one asks what kind of building you live in. That's the beauty of living in a city and what makes this building a perfect fit. Many residents, including the HOA, support this development and welcome the residents that it will bring. We hope the council will do the same. Thank you for your service to our community.
Mr. Kingan, is that everyone from that you're aware of who's in support of this project?
Hi, excuse me. Hi, my name is Ashley Williams. I'm a single mom of 2 kids. My son Braylon is 14 and my daughter Maya is 10. I met Eric Armstrong probably about 7 years ago when I was working downtown at Wild Eggs. We've stayed in touch over the years. He really enjoys eating out. I work a little bit all over downtown. I work at 45 Degrees and the Slippery Noodle. Being in this industry, you tend to share your life with people. You see them all the time. So when I heard about this project, I needed to come and tell you about my experiences. We used to live in a 2-bedroom apartment for $950 a month. I was able to get that through affordable housing. We lived there for 2 years. Eventually, I was able to age out of that and become more successful, and was offered that same apartment at market rate for $1,500. This apartment is probably one of the nicest homes that I was able at that time to provide for my children, and I definitely wouldn't have been able to have such a place if it wasn't for this. The added bonus to this was not having a car. I was able to walk to and from work. There was a new red line station just right outside of my door, so we were able to also access different parts of the city very easily. Biking has also been very easy. We can bike to and from school all over the place with the cultural trail as well, and feel safe about it. My kids absolutely love living downtown. They don't really want to go anywhere else. Like I said, we get to go. We walk everywhere. We get to go to sporting events, and they always have community events happening, museums. There's 2 YMCAs downtown, which also help with affordable things. So with the many perks like this, this proposal just seemed like such a great thing. Eric's also listened to some things that I thought they could benefit from my experience, things that I thought that lacked and things that I thought that were really great, and that they could either continue with or maybe improve on. I know many families that weren't as fortunate as mine, because there unfortunately usually is a pretty long wait list just to even get into the affordable housing. So adding spaces like this would really advance with that, and then also give your kids better opportunities and mingling with people of different backgrounds and whatnot. I just want to finish by saying there are many great places in Indy that a family can call home. The affordable housing program allowed me to provide a great home and really improve my situation for me and my kids. Thank you.
Thank you to the speakers who came forward. I will now call on the remonstrators to state their case. Again, remember that you have 20 minutes total for your presentation, regardless of how many speakers participate. You may choose not to use the full 20 minutes or to save a portion of it for rebuttal. Once again, our clerk will keep track of the time, and a buzzer will sound when your time is up. If you do not use a portion of your time, our clerk will record the amount you have remaining for rebuttal. Who is here to speak in remonstrance of this proposal?
Hi, I'm Heidi Kent. Good evening. Since we only have 20 minutes to discuss a project that's going to have an impact on our neighborhood for a lifetime, I'm hoping that you all have had an opportunity to watch the previous hearings, review our presentation, and read the letters that you've received from neighbors about this project ahead of time. I'm just going to focus on highlighting our key concerns with this development. So as we've been saying from day one, the residents of Fall Creek Place are strong proponents of affordable housing, and we would love to see more affordable housing added to our neighborhood. We'd also love to see these lots developed. We just want to see that happen in a responsible way that complements its surroundings and is designed to integrate with the neighborhood. This proposal just doesn't. And the size, the footprint, and the density of the building is honestly obnoxious for the area. If you can flip to like the next couple of slides. There's insufficient parking available, which will lead to congestion and safety concerns for the neighborhood. And also, if they attempt to move the access back off of the alley, that is a primary concern for neighbors as well because of the safety issues that creates. So throughout this whole process, I've just been so baffled by the DMD staff and hearing examiners' support of the project because it just doesn't align with the comprehensive plan. The infill guidelines or the zoning ordinance, which the DMD is in place to enforce and uphold. I cannot for the life of me understand why all the rules and guidelines established for development are being so blatantly disregarded in this case. And my assumption is that the MDC didn't either, and that's why they denied the petition. So the comprehensive plan calls for a traditional neighborhood, and that recommends residential density of 5 to 15 dwelling units per acre. And this proposal is for 38 units on 0.82 acres of land, which equates to 46.3 DUA. So that's over 3 times the top of the range of the plan. So that's really excessive. The plan also states that density intensification should be incremental. And the current DUA for the residential development on our block today, because I live on this block, is 14.5 DUA. So 46.3 DUA is not an incremental increase. This complex is just too large to maintain cohesion with the neighborhood. Its sheer size sets it up to be its own island and makes it unlikely that the residents would integrate with the rest of the neighborhood. We currently have a strong sense of community. That's one of the things that makes our neighborhood so great. And we want any developments that happen in the area to contribute to that and complement that versus detract from it. Again, if you look at this slide, the comprehensive plan states that individual building height, massing, footprint should gradually transition from adjacent developments. Specifically, buildings located adjacent to existing residential development should be no more than 1.5 times the height and no more than twice the average footprint of existing adjacent residential buildings. This proposal doesn't even closely align with those standards. So if you look at this, you can see how much more massive the building in blue is compared to the surrounding houses and apartments, because there already are apartments on our block. We're not opposed to apartments. More apartments is great. It just should fit and blend. The footprint that's being proposed is 31,066 square feet. That's over 12 times the average size of the adjacent residential buildings, again, including other apartment buildings, and over 6 times what the plans deem is appropriate for this space. So just to put it plain and simple, the building's too large. It doesn't visually blend with the surroundings. It'll tower over everything and be the dominant structure in the area. I'm just really perplexed why Councilor Adamson has called the MDC's decision into question against the interest of his constituents when the MDC did exactly what they're in place to do. They've upheld the build standards and protected the neighborhood and community. His justification that he's provided is that workforce housing is too important an issue to let slide away due to any technicalities, and that the city is desperate for housing for people who make $45,000 a year because there's nowhere for them to live in the urban core. And I just have a couple thoughts on that. And the first is that, this project being denied is not saying no to workforce or affordable housing at this location. It's saying no to a proposed development that's too large, that doesn't fit the context of its surroundings. It would not serve the neighborhood or its tenants well. And second, I'm just not clear what the technicality was in this case, and that has called this into question. I don't know if it's the fact that the developer was ill-prepared and didn't have enough detail or documentation to provide to the MDC for them to make their decision based on what's required per the process. But I do think that it's setting an extremely dangerous precedent to question the MDC's decision because they didn't allow the rules and process to be violated simply because a petitioner attached the right buzzword to their project, like affordable housing or transit-oriented development. And lastly, I'm incredibly concerned that Mr. Adamson believes that there's nowhere in the urban core for people making $45,000 to live. That just feels out of touch with what's going on in his district, because there are currently, and we have slides on this, if you look further down in, it shows all of the apartments that are available on that corridor of College, as well as all of the vacancy that's currently available. And so we have a lot of housing, a lot of apartments, as well as rentals along that stretch, and many of them have vacancy. Many of them are affordable. They would fit in the standards of what is very affordable for someone making between $30,000 and $40,000. And so I just don't understand why we're not even considering solving this housing problem by working with our local businesses and these apartment owners who have current vacancy and helping them fill their existing buildings. I don't believe that utilizing taxpayer money to build a new apartment that will further hurt our local landlords, that's obnoxious for the area, poses umpteen safety concerns, and detracts from the cohesion of the neighborhood is the right solution. There are so many better alternatives to address Mr. Adamson's concerns and to provide affordable housing, including apartments in this neighborhood. We've had many conversations and made many recommendations to the developer about what is appropriate, including appropriate for an apartment on this site. They just haven't been interested because they can't make as much money if it doesn't have as high of a density. And from my perspective, one-party profiting is not a justifiable reason to disregard process and offer a free pass and do something that's going to harm a community. So, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Princess Gamby, and I live at 2217 Broadway Street. I've lived there for 13 years. I have always been in affordable housing. I'm a child of a Section 8, lived on Section 8 all my life. Grew up from that, still had to go to affordable housing. I was blessed to be with a Habitat Humanity homeowner now. So bringing in this apartment building behind my home, that leads me to move out of my affordable housing to go somewhere that I can no longer afford. This big old building behind my home is in my backyard. I'm the one that said it's going to be like a prison in my backyard. Absolutely. I've lived in affordable housing. I know how affordable housing works. And it's not okay to give people just a box that's going to have kids. Their highway is their front yard. College is a highway. People drive up and down there as fast as they can to get wherever they're going. That's not okay for me to have kids living in that building and they have nowhere to play. They're not going to be able to play in the alley like I used to when I was a kid, and like my kids did when we first got our house, and be able to play in the yard. They're not even going to have a yard to play in. They say, well, it's a park down the street. Yeah, it's 4 blocks down. What child is going to be able to walk 4 blocks down on a busy street to go to a park if their parent is not at home because they are a single parent working different shifts, working multiple jobs, as this single mother said that she does, as I did at one time, working 2 or 3 jobs to be able to survive. This is not what our children need, nor the kids that's in our neighborhood or the kids that's going to be living in there. Where would they play? Okay, you got a building you got playground on the 2nd floor. What is that going to do for a child? They can't ride their bikes on there. They can't ride their bikes up and down College. We've had multiple accidents. Yes, we want affordable housing. They keep saying we don't want, it's not that we don't want affordable housing. This building just don't fit. We've asked them, why don't you put Habitat for Humanity homes there so we as the neighbors can go and help build that will help integrate us with the new neighbors, get to know the people. Why we can't do, that's not going to be affordable. We're not going to profit from that. Is it about you profiting off affordable housing and capitalizing off of affordable housing, or is it about giving people a better quality of life? See, this is what we should be about. This is what people got in their seats for, to do something to make a change. And the change don't start with everybody pointing a finger saying this person should do this person should do that. Now point the finger at yourself and say, what can I do different? How can I make what I stand for and the chair I sit in make a difference for those that don't have a voice, that don't know how to speak up? This is not okay. to put a big old building like that on a busy street, and they'll say, okay, they're gonna live just fine. No, they're not. They're gonna be in the alley throwing rocks at people's houses, doing graffiti. What are we doing for our kids? We're just gonna put them inside the building because they said they have a rec room so they can play more video games, learn how to shoot people and all. No, it's time for us to stop just building something just for us, for those that are building it, make money off of it. Look at the quality of life that y'all gonna give people when you decide on this. Is it good for everybody involved? Because once you get to build it, you get to walk away and live your life. Giving them a Habitat for Humanity home lets them continue to keep going, leaves them something for their kids, like I can leave mine for my children. I don't plan on leaving my house. Somebody say, why don't you move? Why do I have to move out of my affordable house? Because they're getting ready to build this big monstrosity affordable apartment building. That's not fair to me, nor my children, or the people that's coming, the kids that's coming that can't ride bikes. They're not gonna be able to play like regular kids when they get off of being out of school and all of that. So I just ask that you open your hearts and not just listen to something. Open up your hearts and know that this is not good for the children. Thank you.
Good evening, counselors. My name is Samantha DeWester. I'm a resident of Fall Creek Place. I also happen to be a lawyer, and I appreciate your time tonight. I feel like I'm living in bizarro world because I've been here 4 times for this one project. And I appreciate the petitioner's friends that he brought along, who I've never met most of them before, but we certainly, our neighbors who have attended before and have spent hundreds of hours on this project can certainly tell you the concerns. And if maybe Zach Adamson doesn't understand it, I can articulate those more clearly to you. We're talking about putting about 100 and 125 people on less than an acre of property at 22nd and College. Imagine that. In a 3-story building, stacked up high. The 2-bedroom apartments are under 900 square feet and they can hold to 5 people. The 1-bedrooms are 600 and some square feet and can hold to 3 people. What quality of life are we giving people in Indianapolis because someone wants to cram down this project at this location? The lots themselves, you may not understand this, are $205,000 each. $615,000 is in the land, which is under an acre. So we're going to blow $615,000 to put affordable housing in. That doesn't make any sense on any planet to anyone. We have been in Fall Creek, I've lived there for 8.5 years, and we have watched the area flourish. We have worked tirelessly. We support our neighbors. We protect each other. We stand up for each other. We watch out for each other. We also vote. And it is shameful that the counselors in this district have not listened to a single constituent. These are not your constituents. They don't live there. We do, and we pay the taxes there. It's shameful that you've called this down based upon some out of your district individual or entity or developer to put this here. The concerns here are real. They're not just about entry and exit. Put yourselves in the shoes of the folks that will live there. Do you want to live in a place like this? Where next door is a gas station in Old Brownfield, your front yard is College Avenue, your backyard is an alley? I mean, I saw a guy get hit by a truck about 2 months ago in the middle of College on a random Saturday afternoon. That's what we're looking at. And when I said in front of the MDC, there have been in the first 6 months 8 serious car accidents in this one block. College, between 22nd and 23rd, 8 serious car accidents, including a fatality and an SBI. But yet we're going to cram another 100, 125 folks into that under-acre property. Why on earth does that make sense? We are all about affordable housing. We have said from day one, we will help build houses, apartments. Lower income folks deserve more than apartments, let's be clear. And we should be looking at home ownership where they have their own yard, like Princess, like our other neighbors that have Habitat houses. Why is it only poor folks can live crammed in an apartment building? Well, is that okay for everyone? Does that make sense to anybody? No, this is a money and land grab. This project does not make sense for this location. I'm sorry, Mr. Armstrong, who, by the way, has never developed a single building his entire life. So this will be his first project that we're going to hand the keys over. And he has to own it or manage it for 15 years. It has to be low income for 30 years. So over the past 6 months that we've spent hundreds of hours gathering data and information and door knocking and calling neighbors and meeting with neighbors about all the concerns. We've had this now tonight collectively makes 1 hour to present what will change our neighborhood forever. And Fall Creek Place received a 10-year tax abatement to have people move to it because it was Dodge City 20 years ago. People moved there. And guess who owned the properties that, or owned the land that the houses were built upon? The city of Indianapolis, King Park, other entities like that. They sold them all to develop, but now it's, wait a minute, we got to backtrack, and now we have to build this huge monstrosity here because we profited off the sale of all these properties, but now these 3 tracts of land are $615,000, and we have to put this here. No one told Eric Armstrong to buy this area. No one told IHP they had to put affordable housing there. Period. It doesn't have to go here. There are 27 children in that one block alone. And if y'all knew your district, you would know that. And it's very concerning for the safety of everyone. DPW was vehemently opposed to access on College because it is such a highway. I dare you right now to go drive, and I say dare because you take your life in your own hands when you drive down College. Go drive up and down College, to and from work any day of the week. You will get run over by someone going 75 miles an hour. There is no green space here. Who wants to live in a building that is all concrete and there is no outside area? Where is someone going to walk their dog or take their kids? The grocery store is 6.5 blocks away. They're going to walk there and carry groceries back? There are 2 bus lines here. 2. It's not a major hub. There are 2 bus lines that is not changing. One goes west and one goes north. To go to the grocery store, you have to catch one going north to catch another one going back south. It is abhorrent what has gone on here. They have received dozens, and I believe all of you have received them, dozens of letters from neighbors who are absolutely exhausted, counting me, by trying to preserve our neighborhood and keep people safe. We welcome everybody, everyone. We encourage, let's do something together. But segregating people into a corner where nothing is around them, sorry, put my little timer on, where nothing is around them, you're basically reverse redlining people. They will be completely segregated and cut off from our neighborhood. What is the point of that? Just so we can say we built something? Why don't we use the money on rehabbing the apartments that are existing? You're gonna build housing and hope that people come to it, as opposed to taking housing to the people where they need it, right? So all the places on the east side, Oak Tree Apartments, all of those places that became blighted and run down because it's the exact thing, people just leave and go move somewhere else, is what could happen here. We want a better solution. They aren't working with us. They've only done just enough to get under the legal limits of variances in zoning. So they've not done anything. They've only done it because the city said, no, we're not going to approve a 68-unit, 5-story or 4-story building. So I will end there and we'll save the rest of our time for rebuttal.
Thank you for your comments. This rezoning matter was advertised for public hearing, and I'll now call on anyone in attendance who is not associated in any way with either the remonstrator or petitioner for public comment. If you have submitted a letter or email or signed a petition for either the remonstrator or petitioner, or if you are a neighborhood resident who has already been represented by a chosen spokesperson, your comments would have to be included in the remaining time allotted for rebuttal. Comments are limited to 2 minutes per individual, and once again, our clerk will be setting the timer so that you will know when your time is up. Please be respectful of the time and conclude your comments when you hear the buzzer. We will now call for additional public testimony from anyone attending this evening in the chamber. All right, seeing no one, is there anyone from staff who would like to make any comments, to come forward, to speak to what has been spoken this evening?
Good evening, councilors. Kathleen Blackham. I'm a senior planner with the Department of Metropolitan Development in their current planning section. As has been noted, staff did support this. Staff believes that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan recommends a traditional neighborhood that has been noted. And I would like to make a comment about the traditional neighborhood typology includes a full spectrum of housing types ranging from single-family homes to large-scale multi family housing. For this reason, staff believed and does believe that this is appropriate for this site. The traditional neighborhood also provides for a neighborhood commercial area. They are providing that. And again, staff believes that it is appropriate. There's been a comment made about the density. Yes, it is higher density. However, the plan does provide for higher density if the development is within a quarter mile of a frequent transit line, and it is, a greenway or a park, and it's near a park. For this reason, staff believes that this is, again, an appropriate as well as the density. There's been some comments about the size of this, but again, what staff believes and is appropriate, this is on a primary arterial. What you would expect along those types of streets and roads are higher density and higher buildings. So it is compatible, staff believes, with the surrounding area. And with that, I would be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Blackham.
Thank you.
Sure. Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question for was we mentioned the commercial development in this district or this area. Where is the closest grocery store to this location? And you know, the reason I ask is because we've had an issue of the food deserts, and I'm just curious where the closest grocery store is, and if we're adding that many more residents to that area, how they're going to be fed.
Ms. Blackham, would you like to make any comments on this, please?
The closest grocery store is there at 16th and College. It's the Kroger. It's just one block to the west of Kroger, or excuse me, of College. So they do have access to this. This is at 22nd. The Kroger is at 16th.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. I got no one else here for public comment. Councillor Jared Evans, I think you needed to step out for just a moment. Is that correct? So I will ask for, and I don't know how much time we actually have, Madam Clerk, would you give the amount of time left for both the petitioner and the remonstrator?
The petitioner has 3 seconds, remonstrator has 30 seconds.
Very good. Councilor McCormick, yes, please. You may also step out. Well, I don't know that that gives us enough time for proper comment. What I would ask, if there's consent from the body, to give both the petitioner and the remonstrator 5 minutes for rebuttal. Do I have consent? All right, very good. We're going to suspend the rules here for just a moment so that those of you who actually do not have enough time for a real comment, 3 seconds and 30 seconds will not be enough. You'll have 5 minutes for rebuttal. And before I start on that, we had a question or comment from Chairman Gray.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I keep hearing them talk about affordable housing, and then they say workforce housing. What is the price range for that you would consider affordable housing to live in that area?
Who would like to speak to that, please? Would that be Ms. Blackham or someone else from DMD?
Sorry, could I get that question one more time, please, sir?
What would you consider affordable housing? What's the cost to be able to afford affordable housing in that area?
To be eligible for these, when we say workforce versus a Section 8 home, 60% of the Marion County average median income, which would be for a household of one, $34,000, and then for a household of two persons would be right around $40,000. And those are dynamic based on what's released each year. And then those rents, we agreed to lower those rents to a particular rate that's set forth with IHCDA based on a one-bedroom or two-bedroom in acceptance of building the affordable housing that's subsidized.
So what's the difference between workforce and affordable housing?
You can have an affordable housing where you're not currently working. Some projects you're able to receive credit for housing without having employment. With these particular apartments, you would have to be employed.
So they're workforce and not affordable?
They're both. They're both at the same time. You have to be working to be eligible, but they're also reduced rate based on the amount that you're earning. So someone who was working but made $75,000 would not be eligible.
But what if I was making $25,000?
They would be eligible. Anything under, for a one-bedroom under, right now, $34,000, and combined, so a husband who is working and a wife who are living, under $40,000 in a two-bedroom.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, I will ask then, the petitioners may use up to 5 minutes for rebuttal of previous comments. Madam Clerk, can you remind the petitioner when the 5 minutes is up?
Yes, I will have the buzzer go.
Will there be any rebuttal from the petitioner? All right, very good. Anyone from speaking on the remonstrance? You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Samantha DeWester again. I just wanted to shore up a few things that we weren't able to touch upon. And speaking, this issue is not about affordable housing, right? The petitioners, their issue is not about affordable housing. It's about money. That's it. No one cares about the quality of life of people in the neighborhood or the folks in this place. It's about money. It's about developer fees, which is all written in contracts, 9% of the total project, about architectural fees, other fees, and it's also about the property that's being sold that's way inflated from what it is, which affects our properties in turn to make money. And, you know, the guaranteed income that he's going to get, he owns a house in our neighborhood, doesn't live there, and hasn't for quite some time. He runs it as a boarding house. The best predictor of future behavior is looking at the immediate past. His house is an eyesore and a nuisance to the folks on the street. He has zero experience doing this. I don't care who's doing it, regardless of whether it's him or the Pope himself. The project is horrible for this location for all of the reasons that we have stated. It is it's a public safety nightmare waiting to happen. In fact, the building at the corner of, on the northwest corner of 22nd College had to be demolished because a car ran through it. That's how bad the traffic is all through that whole area. And it's not getting any better. And adding 100 and 125 people to this location doesn't help. I do find it curious that the positions have somewhat changed after we had official hearings on the record, as this is, and will be going forward, about how, I mean, the city planner, they would not agree to this unless the access was on the alley, period. They would not agree to it. Had to be on the alley. Now, everyone's saying it's a great idea, right? And after the MDC hearing, they voted it down unanimously against it. But somehow, after some meetings with city county councilor, they forgot it is a great location, that they did recall, that it was apparently talked about in their minds telepathically, that it's a good location for this. All of this is an embarrassment. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You are not serving the people in your constituency who actually live and vote for you. You're not helping anyone that would be living at this apartment building. It is shameful. I'm embarrassed, honestly, to live anywhere near one of your districts because you're not listening to anybody. None of these folks do. Clearly, you've listened to everything they've had to say. You haven't read our 54-page PowerPoint, and I apologize for the length of that. but we have tons of data, and we have talked to everyone from the mayor's office down, state agencies, local groups, etc. There are empty apartment buildings. Actually, the apartment building right next to this that has 8 units, the multifamily housing they keep referring to that's massive, has 8 units, 3 are vacant. The place across the street, Mr. Thompson owns, it also has vacancies. The Renew Indy place down the street, it also has vacancies. You all can listen to any of the Housing Authority meetings. They have vacancies right now at Luger, Barton, Braxton, Milliken on Mass. They can't get them full. They've had multiple fairs to try and get those places filled. They can't do it. So why are we building another place, especially when it's at a horrible location? These are our tax dollars in our neighborhood. Someone has to care. If it's not our counselors, I'm asking you guys to care, because we certainly do. And people have already started listing their houses for sale, and I know people don't care about that, but we're all going to leave, and you guys will be dealing with the property tax situation and everything going awry and it becoming Dodge City once again, unfortunately. Care about the people that are going to live there. Care about the current neighbors that live there, please. Listen to, we got to do better than this, folks. We got to do better, and we can. Say no, please. Do not overturn the MDC's vote, please. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation this evening. And at this time, any counselor who wishes to speak will be allotted 2 minutes each for questions or debate on the rezoning issue at hand. Please be advised, we would like to keep it to 2 minutes. So, counselors, comments, questions? Councilor Hart.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first thing I'm trying to understand, and it's a follow-up from the previous questions, what is the exact price that it's going to cost for the apartments to these individuals that is considered workforce housing?
Is there anyone who can come forward, please, and answer the question?
The rents will be stipulated by IHCDA. We could have rents in the range of $650 for a 1-bedroom and $950 for a 2-bedroom. I believe you got a kind of an understanding from Ms. Williams' testimony. When you exceed the income capital, she was provided an option to continue renting in hers for, I believe it was $1,550. So they escalate back up to the market rate at that time when you are earning more than what they consider to be or is in that average median income. The hope is that you've started to earn more and you can afford either to transition into a single-family home if that's your desire, or to pay for a market rate in the same area.
So what would you charge somebody who doesn't qualify for affordable housing for your 1-bedroom and for your 2-bedroom?
We have market rate units, actually, at the request of the Fall Creek Place HOA was one of the items that we discussed, was including market rate. So we had actual market rate units within the 38 units that we're building. And those market rate units would be approximately $1,400 for a 2-bedroom and $975 for a 1-bedroom. And again, those are markets, so that pricing is obviously dynamic with the demand, but should fit in that Fall Creek Place area.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I make comment on that newfound information?
Please, go ahead, please.
All right, thank you, sir. So here's my concern, and I've brought this up before in other situations where we've talked about building affordable housing and apartment complexes in downtown Indianapolis, and that we are creating a perpetual cycle for individuals to get stuck in. So take, for instance, somebody who happens to be at this $40,000 line that is able to get $650, or maybe they have 2 bedrooms, so they go with the $950, and that's they have a lowered rent for that. Say they get a raise at work, or they get married and now they happen to be above that. Now their rent just jumped up and they can't technically afford that home. We just put an opportunity for somebody to fail, and I don't like to set people up for failure. 2, when we talk about affordable housing, we're just getting people in apartments. We're not actually building wealth. We're not actually getting individuals into a place of home ownership, which really needs to be the long-term strategy for Indianapolis in building wealth. for the community members within Indianapolis. I'll say it again and I'll say it over and over. If we keep building apartment complexes, we're not going to lease them out. We've heard that from some of our remonstrators that we have available units. We'll probably still have more available units. And beyond that, it's a high population density per square footage. I was doing the math over here, and putting 125 people on 125 people on 1 acre equals about 340 square foot per person. That's pretty small, and that's pretty confined, and I don't think that's a quality of life that we should be aiming for as counselors on this board. So we should look to some of the precedents that have been set by the MDC and follow their guidelines. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm finished.
Very good. Any additional comments from councilors? Councilor Nay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple questions for the developer, if he would not mind coming up. Good evening. Thank you for staying late into the night. Appreciate your public testimony. Do you live in the neighborhood that we're discussing?
I moved in, I bought a house in 2011, and recently I moved into one of the apartments that we owned in 2020, last year in July.
So no?
No, just own the home.
How many projects have you developed excluding this potential development?
Most of our projects have been a maximum of 4 units. This will be our first large multi-unit development.
What about you specifically? So, in other words, none in this scale?
None in this scale, no,
okay.
sir.
Does it concern you, just listening impartially to both sides, does it concern you that, as one individual noted, there's been no consensus? Does it concern you that you're starting off so poorly with the neighbors? Does that bother you, that there's such a public outcry? We heard for some homeowners and members of the community. Does that concern you? Does it bother you? And if it does, why push forward to try to overturn the denial?
I think that's a fair question. We also had a project that we're working on with INHP up at 38th. Historic Watson Park is the neighborhood up there. They had a lot of similar concerns. We met with them. We did a lot of the same things, went door to door, had community meetings, and eventually we found common ground. We extended.
We have limited time, I believe, and so I don't want to cut you off. I don't want to be rude, but specifically to this development, does it bother you that there is such a public outcry? May I finish, Mr. President?
Yes, if you can finish the question.
Keep it very brief.
And then we'll be done.
Specifically to this question, does it bother you that on this specific development, there's such a tremendous, obviously, outcry from homeowners in the immediate area that there has not been able to have a consensus? As a member from the petitioners noted, there's been no consensus, and if that's the case, do you feel like you should move forward and try to overturn the denial?
Oh, we do. We feel that we've gotten a letter of support from the Homeowners Association, which represents the entire Fall Creek Place, and I do realize that there will be people who will not agree with us, and I feel like in my heart that we've done everything to try to reach consensus, including extending design approval to the Neighborhood Association itself.
Very good. Additional questions? Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess not so much a question, but I guess a kind of a thought of concern here. You know, as we consider this proposal and hearing that the petitioner has not done anything to this scale, one of my concerns with this project is another GM stamping plant situation where the developer overcommitted, couldn't fulfill those needs, and then we got in an issue with the city and the developer. But obviously these are different circumstances, but you know, I just looking at the scale of this and what they've accomplished so far, you know, I am having a little bit of concern on the feasibility for the developer to get this project done, given their history.
Very good, thank you. Additional comments from councilors? Councilor Ethan Evans.
Thank you, President Osley. I had a couple questions regarding development and the neighborhood in general. I just wanted to follow up on something Councilor Hart had said. I know he made it a comment. Just wanted to clarify something about the sliding scale for the rent. So if someone were to, let's say, get the 2-bedroom at the $40,000, and the situation like Councilor Hart happened, where they made slightly more than that, would they immediately bump up to that very high price, or would it go slightly above?
No. What would happen is you are notified. We have a property management company that's certified by IACDA. If someone is out of the threshold for the average median income that's set that year, you have a certain period of time. It's not as though you're evicted or immediately, your rent is immediately increased. What we'd like to do, and what has happened, and we've worked with INHP, is try to identify, something in the area or even at another site that might be an option.
So they do have to leave in that case?
They would not qualify for the affordable, yes, correct, the affordable rent.
Okay. Well, can I just make one comment on that follow-up?
Please, go ahead.
That does concern me a bit in that instance. I understand there has to be a threshold regardless because it's affordable and low income. And I am also concerned on the other hand, just because I've seen, as was mentioned earlier, the prices for the housing on the other hand in that same neighborhood. And I heard comments to the effect that, well, it could just be affordable housing, like actual houses. But if you look at the actual prices going up on for sale, they are in the 300s to 400s price range in that area, 24th and 23rd and College. And just on my opinion alone, I don't think somebody making $34,000 to $40,000 a year can afford a $300,000 to $400,000 house. So that's just mine. So thank you.
Very good. Additional comments from councilors? All right. Seeing none, I'll once again call on the district councilor, Councilor Adamson, for closing comments and a motion on the zoning issue.
Thank you, President Osley. Once again, I want to thank both the remonstrators and the petitioners for being here this evening to publicly share their thoughts on Proposal 315. As I mentioned in my opening statement, my hope in calling this down, this proposal down, was for this body to hear from all stakeholders about this proposal, and that this is a development that's for safe, affordable housing for District 17. Madam Clerk, members of the council, I do not need to use the entire balance of my 5 minutes to sum up my thoughts on this. What has been laid out in front of us is clear to me. After the most recent action of the MDC, the petitioner has continued to work in good faith to address the concerns of some residents and has committed both in the preliminary hearings and again tonight to additional modifications and concessions on the project. Additionally, the memo supplied by the Commissioners Hackett and Garver, representatives of the MDC acknowledged that, and I quote, from the public memo, the affordable housing that was planned for this site would be very appropriate for the neighborhood and is much needed for the city. In fact, the reason for the MDC's original denial were the changes to the site's layout were not submitted in time to be included for the information to the MDC. We are, as each of you knows, in the middle of budget season. We've heard from each agency and department throughout the county about challenges of recruiting and retaining talent, and a lack of affordable housing will only deepen that challenge. In response to this council's commitment to equity, we have heard time and time again about what others in the city are doing to address it. This is an opportunity for us to make a difference on both fronts. To that end, I would ask all of you to join me this evening in voting to overturn the decision of the MDC, which would thereby approve the petition to move forward with this development of safe, affordable housing for District 17. To the neighbors here this evening who are all still against this project, I want you to know that I hear your concerns. But overall, I believe the benefits to expanding affordable housing to our working class neighbors in our city are too important to not move forward. I hope my fellow councilors will agree and join me in voting yes to overturn the decision of the MDC. Thank you, and I do so move.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded. According to state law, a 3/5 majority vote, which is 15 votes, is required to overturn any zoning decision certified to the council by the Metropolitan Development Commission. Any vote less than 15 shall be declared as indecisive, and the proposal shall stand denied pursuant to IC 36-7-4-608C3. Based upon Councilor Adamson's motion, a yea vote will be a vote to overturn the MDC's decision and approve the petition, allowing it to pass into law. A nay vote will be a vote to uphold the MDC's decision and deny the petition. So, seeing no further comments on this, Madam Clerk, let us go to the board. Proposal 21-315.
Mr. President,
Councilor, Chairman Gray?
just before we vote, you was a little muffed on the numbers. How many votes do we need to overturn?
15.
And, okay.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chairman Gray. All right, the motion carries 18-5. There is no business under special orders, unfinished business, and we will now proceed to special orders final adoption. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 251, referred to Administration and Finance Committee. Chairman Mascari.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposal 251 was heard September 7th. It authorizes the issuance of special taxing district bonds for the Parks District Consolidated City in aggregated principal amount not to exceed $25 million to finance the acquisition, construction, installation, and equipping certain community park improvements at Riverside Park, Cranard Park, and Grassy Creek Park. I so move. It passes 11-0.
All right, the motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Chairwoman Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank the administration for this proposal and say I fully support this proposal. And it gives an opportunity for District 14 to be on the map and have a building at one of its parks. I think we're one of the only districts that does not have, it won't be a family life center, but a building where we could do some science, some nature education, that the schools can use the building, that the community centers can, the people in the community, the residents can use the building and be able to enjoy the perks of the parks additionally outside, and then the updates to Grassy Creek Park. So I'm very supportive of this and the improvements to the trails and other things that are going to be at Grassy Creek Park as well. Very much needed to make us in competition or inclusive of where the other parks are in the city. So thank you so much, Mr. President.
Very good. Additional comments from councilors? All right, seeing none, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. The motion carries 23-0. There is no business under special service district councils. There is no business under new business, and so the next item on our agenda is announcements and adjournment. The docketed agenda for this meeting of council having been completed, the chair will now entertain motions for adjournment.
Mr. President.
The chair recognizes Councilor Mowry.
Mr. President, I have been asked to offer the following motion for adjournment by Councilor Jones in memory of Eric Tjin, by Councilor Lewis in memory of John J. Maxey Sr., by Councilor Larison in memory of Hannah Crutchfield, by Councilor Adamson in memory of Kyle Hendricks and Charlotte Luton. Mr. President, I would like to move the adjournment of this meeting of the Indianapolis City County Council in recognition of and the respect for the life and contributions of the persons I have here specifically named. I respectfully ask the support of fellow councilors. I further request that the motion be made a part of the permanent records of this body, and a letter bearing the council seal and the signature of the president be sent to the family of each person advising of this action.
Thank you, Councilor Maury. Hearing no objections, the motion is received, and the requests are so ordered. Hearing no further motions, we're adjourned.